Effective school environments offer all students instructional and curricular supports to prepare them to engage in lifelong learning and to live, work, and play in community. For more than 40% of students with disabilities who receive special education services, these supports include related services. Related services in schools are defined by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, and North Carolina policies governing services for students with disabilities.
IDEA defines related services as services and supports that students who receive special education require in order to access and benefit from their special education.
In other words, without those related services, a student receiving special education will be unable to make progress on the annual goals on their Individualized Education Program, or IEP.
When a child is struggling in school, first we consult with teachers trying to figure out what's happening, and then we have what we call the student support team, which is a group of educators who try to give the teacher some direction on how to work with the child. After providing some suggestions and interventions based on the child's need, if the child continues to struggle, then the next step would be to refer the child for eligibility for special education.
Once the evaluation is complete, if the student qualifies for special education, the IEP team meets to write the student's IEP. This team includes parents, educators, administrators, school-based related service providers, and when appropriate, the student. When the team finishes writing the annual goals, it considers each one to determine the student's eligibility for related services.
North Carolina and federal policy require IEP teams to make a decision about a student's need for related services. So it's not a matter of a student qualifying for related service.
If the student needs related services to progress on any or all goals, the IEP team then decides the type, focus, and frequency of services or therapies the student will receive in school.
So IEP teams review all the evaluation data on a specific child and make the determination as a team whether or not that child requires a related service or more in order to benefit from their special education.
In accordance with federal and state requirements, a variety of related services are available to students with disabilities to help them make progress toward their IEP goals. It is important for families to know that to make progress, a student may not require all of the available related services. 4 of the most common school-based related services are psychological services, speech-language pathology services, occupational therapy, and physical therapy.
School psychologists try to help students be successful in school. A school psychologist can help with identifying some of the difficulties that the child is having, and they can also help not only to assess but also to do progress monitoring of their performance and see if they're improving their skills, if something needs to be tweaked and changed. They can work very closely with the teachers trying to help them implement the interventions that are appropriate for that particular child. As a member of the IEP team, if a child is having a learning problem, I can help them sort through the psychological assessment, what kind of assessments we are going to need. So we use psychological testing that measures the child's ability to learn, and we use the tools according to the child's needs, the child's background, because it's really important to take into account what the student's background is. There are many instances that children are having emotional difficulties or behavior difficulties that might interfere with their progress in the classroom. As a school psychologist, we also work very closely providing support to school counselors. to work with the student to help them cope with their difficulties and help them understand the areas that they're struggling with to be successful in school.
Well, a school-based speech-language pathologist really works on a student's communication skills at school. We're looking to see how a student communicates effectively in order to get through their school day, whether through work or interacting with other students. So the focus really is on communication. That's articulation sounds, voice quality, fluency or stuttering, how kids understand and use language, and how they use it to interact and socialize with other kids and adults during their school day. There are so many different facets and ways that we can deliver speech therapy at school for different kids. So every kid needs something different. I may work in the classroom with a student working on articulation, and we can read the books they're reading, work on writing, and retelling stories out loud and working on those skills. In some cases, a student needs some extra support, and so I might work with them in a smaller setting, maybe outside of the classroom, so they can focus on practicing those skills as they're first starting out in therapy or if they're having difficulties. And in the end, what we want is for them to be in the classroom practicing those communication skills and being more independent.
As an occupational therapist, we're part of the IEP team, and we look at the child across their school environment. So we're able to identify their strengths and weaknesses at various places and at various times across their school day. We work with students within their classroom, and we work on skills that they may need in order to participate better, whether it may be cutting or writing, it may be putting their items in their cubby, putting on their coat or zipping their jacket. We'll work in the lunchroom as well, possibly opening packages. And then we also look at the whole school environment too, whether they may need assistance in art or on the playground or other aspects of their day. We support teachers within the classroom to help them make modifications, provide accommodations for the students, and help the students participate better. And then we work with parents to help carry over those skills from the school setting into the home as well, to help build on what we're working on in school. Within middle and high school, occupations shift a little bit. So the bigger focus is within the secondary education setting is time management, organization, being able to manage their materials. We may work with a student on being able to access their locker, which may mean modifying their lock or working on opening a combination lock, or setting up a different organization strategy so that they can keep their materials together and organized as they change classes throughout their day. Occupational therapists come from a different background than educators. We have a different take on things within the school setting, and so we often look at tasks differently, or we look at assignments differently to see how to modify things to bring it to the child's level that we're working with.
Physical therapists in the schools are there to help bring their expertise that they've learned about movement in order to problem solve when physical challenges get in the way. When the body gets in the way of someone accessing their education and needs help to strategize to overcome those challenges, then a physical therapist is the expert or the professional that should be involved. We're there to help create a safe situation for your child. The child who has balance issues, that they have difficulty sitting in a chair or a desk, a child who may have weakness climbing the stairs to the slide or the bus stairs getting on and off the bus, a child who can't fit their wheelchair under the cafeteria table or under their desk. So we're there to help as part of a team member to address those issues that concern movement and safety. We're there to make sure that you feel comfortable that your child is going to get that expertise when it is needed for them to be able to function properly, safely, happily during their learning experience at school.
Some families of children with disabilities may be used to working with private therapists in medical or clinical settings outside the school, where there is a one-on-one interaction in an office between the child and the therapist. In school settings, however, related services can be provided at any time or location throughout a student's school day.
Research shows us that when students can learn and apply a skill in their regular environment, they're more able to use that skill and master that skill.
Working with students with disabilities in their daily school setting promotes better learning and is in keeping with IDEA's legal requirement of Least Restrictive Environment, or LRE.
Least restrictive environment is the belief and philosophy and requirement that all students with disabilities be educated to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers.
We always feel more is better, and sometimes that's true. But we have to remember that the child is here to learn. The more that I take them away from the usual going-ons of the classroom, the more they're not with their classmates.
I have a son who was born with Down syndrome, who was involved in the school system all the way up to age 20. In thinking about speech and occupational therapy, physical therapy, psychology, all those related services, when he began school, I thought more was better, that he needed it all the time. I was scared that he wouldn't get what I wanted, and I was angry that the services weren't going to be what I thought they were going to be. As time progressed, as we went along, having these related services in the educational setting, especially in having them going into the classroom where he was to see what his needs were, I could see big changes and realize that the related services he received in the classroom, on the playground, in the cafeteria, in the gym, with his friends, that's what was important.
One of my main goals is to see my kids being as independent as possible within their school environment.
I am so honored to work with children and to play a role in the future of a young child who will one day be a productive adult. And that's why I'm here.
The beauty of being in the schools is that we can address the whole child in their school and home environment.
It's extremely rewarding to see how the kids can make this progress with the help that we've given them at school. For the kid to be able to say, you know, I really did it. I know what I can do. It's very rewarding.
Without the services being provided in the natural environments where he was, I don't think my son would be where he is today.